Hello everybody! In this class I will start teaching you the question words in Spanish. So these are the, if not all, at least most of the question words. Actually right now I can't remember any other one. So I will teach you exactly when and how these words are used, what they mean, and now we'll see a few examples using each one of these. Okay? So, question words in Spanish. In Spanish we would say palabras interrogativas en español. Palabras are words. Interrogativas means question words, right? En español for in Spanish. Okay. First of all, quién or quiénes means who. Okay? We use quién for the singular and quiénes for the plural, right? So if we are asking who did this and we are meaning one person, implying one person, we would say ¿Quién hizo esto? Now, if we know many people did this and we are asking who as which people made this, we would ask ¿Quiénes hicieron esto? Okay? For example, then ¿Quién hizo esto? Would be who did this, right? Or who made this, okay? And in the plural, let's use another sentence. ¿Quiénes fueron a la fiesta ¿Quiénes fueron a la fiesta? Who went to the party? Who went to the party? Okay, so ¿Quiénes is plural, so we're asking who as which persons went to the party. Okay, if we know only one person went to the party and we want to know actually which person went, we ask ¿Quién? Okay, so ¿Quién or quiénes is who. Fueron is the past of the verb ir, which means to go, okay? However, fueron is also the past tense for the verb to be, right? Ser, okay? Recently, I taught you the 4 most important verbs in Spanish, one of which was the verb ser, right? And soon I'll teach you how to conjugate this verb in all the tenses, okay? Next word, cuando. Cuando means when. When. So, an example is, ¿Cuándo viajarás? When will you travel? ¿Cuándo viajarás? For example, ¿Cuándo viajarás? When viajarás, will you travel? Viajarás is the future tense for viajar, to travel. Okay? When will you travel? Remember, in Spanish, we not only use the closing question tag, question mark, we also use the opening question mark at the beginning of the sentence. This is important because, as you can see, we do not change the structure of the sentence in question sentences in Spanish, okay? In English we do. So in English we invert the order of the subject and the verb, right? So when we are reading, suddenly we see that the sentence begins with the verb and not with the subject. And that's how we realize that it's a question and we have to change the intonation of the phrase, right? In Spanish, however, the structure is exactly the same. Therefore, we need to open the question mark so that when we are reading, we know we have to change the tone. Okay? Here, whenever we have a question word, it's very clear, because if any sentence starts begins with any of these words, we already know it is a question, okay? But we have sentences that do not necessarily begin with these words and still are questions. Like, for example, ¿eres Juan? Are you Juan? Are you John? Right? Now, if I remove the question marks, this is not a question anymore. ¿Eres Juan? Here I'm stating, you are Juan. You are John. Okay? So, the structure is exactly the same in Spanish for statements and for question sentences, right? That's why it is important to open the question mark whenever a question begins. Next question word, ¿dónde? Where? Right? For example, ¿dónde está mi libro? ¿Dónde está mi libro? Where is, está, with a tilde. Where is my book? Where is my book? ¿Dónde está mi libro? Está is verb estar. Recently, I explained verb estar is one of the 4 most important Spanish verbs. Okay? Good. ¿Dónde está mi libro? Again, you can see I opened the question mark. As you can see, all the question words in Spanish have what we call tilde, okay? It is the Spanish accent. The word tilde in English means something different. I know that this is a tilde in English, right? Okay? And I know that in English you call this an accent. However, in Spanish, the academic word for this is tilde. And the word acento, which also exists in Spanish, acento, just means the strong tone, the strong tone that each word carries. For example, libro has no tilde in Spanish. However, the acento, the accent is here, on the I, because this is the vowel that carries the stress, the tone stress, right? We do not say libro, we say libro. The stress is on letter I, right? So here is the acento of the word, even though there is no tilde, okay? So I'm explaining this for you to see that in Spanish, acento is not the same thing as accent in English. Very similar, but not exactly the same. And this is tilde in Spanish. Okay? In my original lessons, I have a series of 6 lessons where I teach you all the rules of the Spanish tildes. So if you want to know when and how you have to use the tildes, which follow very precise rules in Spanish, you can go to the index and find those lessons. Now, ¿cómo? Means how. How, for example. ¿Cómo llegaste? How did you arrive? ¿Cómo llegaste? ¿Cómo llegaste? How did you arrive? The verb llegar, because llegaste is the past tense for the second person, for tú. The verb is llegar. Llegaste is past. And the verb llegar can mean to arrive and to come. So, ¿cómo llegaste? Can mean either how did you come, or how did you get here, or how did you arrive? Okay? Good. Regarding the tildes, Spanish has 4 basic rules of tildes, or of Spanish accents. The 4th rule of tildes explains that there are many words that carry different meanings, and to differentiate the meaning of the same word, when it's one meaning it carries no tilde, and when it is the other meaning it must carry the tilde to differentiate the 2 words or the 2 meanings from the same word. Okay, so all these words that carry tilde, here the question words, these words also exist without the tilde, but then they are not question words anymore. They have a different meaning or a different function in a sentence. So you will see the word donde without a tilde, the word cuando without a tilde, the word adonde or the word que without a tilde. However, whenever it is a question word, it must carry a tilde. Okay? Next question word, por qué. Por qué means why. Let's think an example. ¿Por qué no fuiste a trabajar? ¿Por qué no fuiste a trabajar? Why not go to work? Okay? Why not go or not went to work? Okay? So actually, why didn't you go to work? Right? Fuiste, as you can see, fueron. Fuiste is also the past tense, simple past for the verb ir, the verb to go. Only that fuiste is the conjugation for second person in the singular for tú or you, while fueron is for third person in the plural, for they, right? Good. ¿Por qué no fuiste a trabajar? Why didn't you go to work? Trabajar means to work. Now, para qué, this one is very similar. ¿Por qué means why? ¿Para qué means what for? What for? Example. ¿Para qué es esto? Okay, ¿para qué es esto? What for is this. Es is a simple present for the third person in the singular, for he, she, it. In this case it would be it. And for the verb ser, or the verb to be. Esto means this. So, what for is this? Or, what is this for? Okay? ¿Para qué es esto? What is this for? ¿A dónde? See? ¿A dónde is very similar to donde. It just carries an A before the D. So, while donde means where, ¿a dónde means where to? For example, ¿a dónde ¿a dónde piensas ¿a dónde piensas viajar? ¿A dónde piensas viajar? Piensas is simple present for second person in the singular, for tú, right? Or you. Piensas, think, the verb pensar means to think, but it's also used in Spanish as to plan, right? To have an intention of something. So, ¿a dónde piensas viajar is where are you planning to travel? where you plan travel. Okay? Where are you planning to travel? Actually, it will be where are you planning to travel to? Okay? Because the letter A at the beginning actually comes from the preposition a. The word a, which is a word of itself, is a preposition in Spanish and is the equivalent to the preposition to from English. So, a donde is where to, or to where, right? So, where are you planning to travel to? Okay? We can also simply ask, ¿a dónde viajarás? Where are you going to travel to? Actually, we can omit this and the sentence is still okay. Now the word que, which is one of the most used ones. Que means what? Okay? For example, ¿qué es esto? What is this? What is this? ¿Qué es esto? What is this? Okay? Remember, in Spanish, we do not change the order of verb and subject, right? As in English for question words. That's why this would be, what is this, right? That would be the correct order of the structure. The last one, cuánto or cuántos. Okay, this means how many or how much. So, cuánto, without the S at the end, is for uncountable, would be how much. And with the S at the end would be how many, for countable, okay? So remember, to remember this easily, remember that plurals in Spanish carry an S at the end, letter S, plurals. So, it's logic that would be cuántos with S at the end for things that we can count, that we can pluralize, okay, like trees, coins, birds, whatever, right? And would be cuánto for things that we cannot count, like water, air, money, etc. Okay? For example. Oh, and I forgot to tell you that this also, cuánto and cuántos also change to feminine to cuánta and cuántas, okay, for feminine. So, would be cuánta and cuántas, right? Cuánto and cuántos would be for masculine, cuánta and cuántas for feminine. Alright? Now, if you're asking something and you don't know if the thing you're asking about, whether it is a masculine or feminine thing, actually, because nouns in Spanish, it has nothing to do with gender, right? Just some nouns are categorized as having a masculine article and some other feminine article. It has nothing to do with man and woman, or masculine or feminine, or male and female, okay? So, and if you're asking about something and you don't know what would be the right article, then how do we know whether to ask cuánto or cuánta? So the answer is, by default, if we are not sure whether we are asking about something feminine, by default we switch to the masculine form, okay? That's the by default in Spanish. Example. ¿Cuánta agua tienes? ¿Cuánta agua tienes? How much water do you have? Tienes is the verb tener. Tener means to have. okay? ¿Cuánta agua tienes? So, since water, agua, is uncountable, we cannot say one water, two waters, three water, right? So therefore we use cuánta without the S. And in Spanish, the noun water, which is agua, is feminine. It carries the feminine article. Therefore we ask cuánta, right, with A. Now let's use countable, right? ¿Cuántos libros tienes? ¿Cuántos libros tienes? How many books do you have? You see here we are not using cuánto or cuánta, we are using cuántos with S, because books we can count. We can say one book, two books, three books, etc. And since libro is a masculine noun, right, we use cuántos and not cuántas. Remember that nouns that end in O in Spanish, they are masculine, and nouns that end in A, like agua, are feminine, okay? That would be a very basic rule. Okay, let me write down the meaning here so you can see it again. ¿Quién or quiénes means who. ¿Cuándo means when. ¿Dónde means where. ¿Cómo means how. ¿Por qué means why. ¿Para qué means what for. ¿A dónde? Where to. ¿Qué means what. And cuánto or cuántos would be how many. Sorry. Cuántos or cuántas would be how many, and cuánto or cuánta would be how much. How much. Okay? So let's read once again all the sentences. ¿Quién hizo esto? Who did this? ¿Quiénes fueron a la fiesta? Who went to the party? ¿Cuándo viajarás? When will you travel? ¿Dónde está mi libro? Where is my book? ¿Cómo llegaste? How did you arrive? ¿Por qué no fuiste a trabajar? Why didn't you go to work? ¿Para qué es esto? What is this for? ¿A dónde piensas viajar? Where are you planning to go, to travel? Or ¿a dónde viajarás? Where are you going to travel? Or where will you travel? ¿Qué es esto? What is this? ¿Cuánta agua tienes? How much water do you have? And ¿cuántos libros tienes? How many books do you have? So this is the end of today's class. I hope this made it clear for you to understand how to use each one of the question words in Spanish. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. You can write to me, comment in the video on YouTube, right? I'll be glad to answer your questions. And if you need to increase the size of the whiteboard, on the lower right corner of your video screen, you have a button in YouTube to switch to full screen mode, okay? There in full screen mode, it will be easier for you to see and to read all that I have written here. So thanks for watching and being with me, and I'll see you in our next class. Goodbye.